Take the wheel, practicing safe sets, which in today's case meant cutting it short because my movement patterns definitely sounded an alarm. My level of physical fatigue also definitely some alarm. So I had to call an audible, lift a little bit lighter, cut off some reps. And I think this coming week, I'm going to be reevaluating where I'm putting my energy and try to make sure that I keep my movement patterns in working order. Instead of doing the 4 sets of 8 at 365, I did 1 set of 8 at 365 and 2 sets of 8 at 315 on the deadlift. Instead of doing 2 sets of 8 at 255 on the squat, I did 2 sets of 7. So those are where I really fell short. For the most part, I got everything else done. But, something was really wrong with my movement patterns, and it touched off some really bad nerve feelings in my back. So I am going to regroup this week, and I'm going to fix what is wrong through this week and then get back to super high intensity leg stuff on Sunday, because I need to get back to the standard that I was at prior to my 2-week deload. All right, now getting into the subject of today. Yes, exactly right, traditionalist. Practice safe sets, and I had to make some adjustments today, and I think that I need to actually work on some ancillary things this week, because I'm starting to get that discomfort in my lower back, and it wasn't because of the volume, and it wasn't because of the resistance. It was because of abnormal fatigue and poor movement patterns. So in the description of this live stream, I put a link to a video that a certain psychologist that I respect a lot, I can't remember his first name, but his last name is St. James. Really good dude. So I want to make sure that people understand that this is not a seething, searing critique of him on a personal or a professional level, just a difference of perception on a subject when it comes to men in society today. So if you check out the link that I put in there, basically what he was saying is, if a man is serious about having a relationship and dating and marriage, the lowest amount of money that he can make is top 17% in the country. And I think that that is a very unhelpful idea to put out there. One of you dropped the wallet right there. I think that it is an opinion. It's his opinion, but I think that opinion does more harm than good, because men in society already are not getting respect for keeping society running. So when I heard what he said, it did not seem right to me, and I thought about our dearly departed male advocate. Show you guys what car I'm driving today, because I kind of want to drive my point home. The pun was not intended. But I want, driving the Beamer today. Okay, so I really want to make sure that my point is being heard here, and I hope this gets back to, I think his name is Jeff, actually, now that I remember. Jeff St. James, if this gets back to him, which I hope it does, because I would love to have that discussion in full context. I think that it is more useful to look at the reality of living in modern day society and making admonitions that are based off of the actual realities of living in society. So in Mr. St. James's premise, to live and survive in modern day life takes a fair bit of money. And I'm not going to argue that too much because, look, I live in New York City. I have an understanding that life costs money. I get it. However, there is a realism factor that I think needs to be addressed when we are looking at men in general. There is a reason why men on average make about $50,000 a year across all races. Black men make even less money. And even the most high earning race of men, which would be Asian men, average $61,000 a year. Now, according to Mr. St. James, the minimum needs to be $75,000 a year. Now, the average Asian man who is leading society in yearly earnings makes about $61,000 a year as of like 2024. It might be, a couple $100 ahead of that now. But when you think about it, the marriage and dating rates among white men earn a little under $60,000, somewhere between 50 and 55 on average. Why is it that they don't need to make top 17% money to get cooperation from women? Why is it that we are telling the guys that have the most obstacles towards making money, we're talking about in aggregate, why are we telling the guys that have the most working against them that they have to make more than the men that make the most? To me, only thing that does is feed the delusion that in order to live in the United States, you have to be top 10%, top 5%, and it's really not helpful. Now, would it be great if we could all make that kind of money? Hell yeah, I want to make that kind of money. I make that kind of money. I make more than that. But here's the deal. And this is the difference that I mentioned in the description of this live stream about the difference between what Mr. St. James is saying and what Kevin Samuels said prior to his death. One of the things that Kevin Samuels never ever wanted to do was minimize the amount of respect that is due to a man that makes an average wage. Why? There is a very specific reason why we don't want to disrespect the man that makes the average wage. And that is because the essential jobs that are necessary to be done to keep modern society going are going to draw an average wage. I'm going to say it one more time so you really get the point that I'm trying to bring up here. The jobs that we need people to do don't drive revenue for rich people. So they are not going to get funded the way jobs that drive revenue for rich people garner. You cannot tell me that a guy that works in construction is not worth more to society than LeBron James, but LeBron James is a billionaire. Does that mean that LeBron James is more valuable than the guy that keeps the electricity running Is LeBron James more important to society than the people that keep the potholes filled, that keeps the roadways painted, that keeps the buildings up to code and standing? You cannot tell me that a musician or an actor or an athlete is worth more because he makes more. That is a fallacy. The things that we value in America that drive revenue are things that are not necessary for the advancement or the survival of our modern day society. It's just not. So when we make these claims that you need to make X number of money or X number of dollars in order to date, what you're really doing is you are adding to the disrespect that the everyday man is, and you may not even be intending to be disrespectful in this way. But one of the things that I always loved about what Kevin Samuels said concerning the average man that makes $45,000, $50,000 a year is that the guys that work in finance, even you, Mr. St. James, even you are allowed to make the money that you do in the profession that you make because of the man that makes average money. I've been working as a personal trainer for the last 13 years. I make $150 to $225 an hour. I drive a Roadster and I drive a fully loaded Mercedes-Benz E-Class, and I live down the block from Billionaires Row. But one of the things I will never do is discount the value or tell a man that makes average money that he shouldn't date and he should try to make X amount of money a year and work 12 and 15 and 18 hours a day. We are human beings. The richest men that live in our country don't do any work at all. They do not add to the advancement of society. They do not add to the maintenance of society. The people that make your profession possible and my profession possible make less money than we do. You're in a highly specialized field in psychology. I'm in a highly specialized field, very near the top of my industry, as a strength and conditioning coach, personal trainer, working in a very expensive city in New York City. But I could not do my job without the hard work that many men do in this society today that do not get the kind of compensation that they deserve based upon their actual value to society. I know guys that work in the middle of the night. I used to be one of those guys. I know guys that I used to grow up with that are making very close to minimum wage, but work a lot harder than I do and work a lot harder than you do, Mr. St. James. And they work a lot of hard hours and they make less money than we do. But if they didn't do those jobs, you would not have your job. So when you make blanket oversimplified statements about how much money a man should make if he's serious about having a family, I mean, think about the implications if men actually followed your advice. You know what? You say, hey, he made a good point. My profession as psychology doesn't make a whole lot of money, but now, I'm able to afford a $500,000 house. Good for you, Mr. St. James. I am happy for you, and I'm glad that you're a voice out there on social media who has taken the risk of drawing the ire of the modern woman to say true statements in like fashion to the kind of risk that Kevin Samuels took. So I have a lot of admiration for Mr. Jeff St. James as a professional and as a social media personality. However, we need to show a little bit more respect for the men that make our jobs possible. Your job is important from a psychological aspect, but if your job disappears, human beings are going to continue. If personal trainers like me did not exist, society would still continue. My job is not necessary for the survival of the human race. And what that means is I need to show the proper respect for the people that actually do those jobs. I'm not going to look down on those people or tell those people that they shouldn't seriously be looking to have a family unless they make the kind of money that usually only people that don't really advance society make. If we think about a lot of the high earning jobs in society, society doesn't really need them to survive as a species. Like, we don't really need those jobs. We don't need CEOs. We don't need professional athletes. We don't need rappers. We don't need drug cartels. But these tend to be the highest paid people. The people that make over $100,000 a year tend to do jobs that sit on top of the jobs that are necessary to keep our societies running. So we need to be a little bit more sensitive to how we talk to the everyday man that, if we are really being honest, work harder than we do for less money. And if you want these guys to go out there and make minimum 75K, which is top 17% in the United States, which is the richest country in the world. If you want everybody to be above average, be prepared for there not to be any plumbers, be prepared for there not to be any electricians, be prepared for there not to be any apprentices in any job that we actually need, because those jobs that we actually need people to work don't pay. And it is not the fault of the people that went into the kind of professions that society actually needs, that society just kind of doesn't put as things that we prioritize, that we need to pay. We don't pay teachers. We don't pay medical professionals. We even have a government right now that is trying to take minimum wage protections away from people who care for the elderly. We have to actually look at the reality of what it is to be in America. The most important jobs don't pay. The cushiest, most flashiest jobs, like laying on your back starfish on OnlyFans, do pay. But you can't tell me any of those people on OnlyFans are necessary to the survival of our modern day society. They don't keep the buildings erect. They don't keep the electricity flowing. They don't keep the poop that you put in the toilet carried away from you. That's not what those people do. Those guys don't do things that keep society running. Seditionalist says, as far as I know, U.S. is somewhere bottom top 10 when it comes to average pay, especially when it comes to professions that actually keep society going. We need to be a little bit more sensitive to what the actual reality is on the ground. Just telling people to work 20 hours a day and you'll magically make 75. There are guys who are burning the midnight oil, burning the candle at both ends, that are barely making 55K, barely making X number of dollars. And I think that we need to, this is why I think Kevin Samuels had the following that he had, because we all understand what a high value man is. We know what the standards are. But to just, most guys are going to make average money. Do you know why? Because average is average. But to tell the average man that he's not serious about having a family, when it's his contribution to society that makes it possible for you to live in your $500,000 house, I think it's a form of disrespect, whether or not you intend for it to be disrespectful or not. I used to be homeless in this city, and I got help, and I got people that helped me to move forward and to gain knowledge, specialized knowledge, and then a customer base of people that value what I do and are willing to pay a premium for it. They would cut me off as their trainer if they was struggling to pay the bills. Why? Because I am not actually necessary to their survival, and I understand that. I give discounts to people sometimes if they are willing to work hard enough and to get up early enough, that do essential work, because I understand that they are doing the best they can. And to tell the majority of men in the country who are underpaid and overworked that they shouldn't even be serious about having a relationship and a family, that ain't it, brother. That ain't it. And you speak on a lot of really important topics. And you say a lot of things that I agree with. But this one, I can't get on board. Because if guys actually did successfully do what you told them to do, be ready for your house to fall apart, because the guys that keep maintenance on the houses are not going to go into those professions. They're going to leave those professions to go be, podcast bros, or to go become finance bros. They're going to start taking jobs that make more money but do less for society. You don't want to live in that world. I guarantee you, you don't want to live in a world where every guy is trying to make $75,000, which, because of how life is, if every guy made $75,000, then the value of $75,000 also goes down. That is just plain old mathematics. What we should be telling guys is work as hard as you can to be the most productive you can, and deal with women who are willing to cooperate and build a life together that is not predicated on the luxuries they see on Narcigram and on TikTok. Let's have actual average everyday people be satisfied with living average everyday lives. 73% of American women that are married have to provide economically for their household in some way. Women have to work. There aren't many stay-at-home mothers that just sit at home and get their nails and hair done. Men and women in our economy have to work together to make ends meet. A guy that makes $50K and a woman that makes $40K together, that's $90K, they can make a life together. If they're living within their means and they have a non-selfish view of the world. But to tell guys, oh, you need to minimum make $75K for who? To what end? Of course, everybody would love to make $75K, but then if every guy made $75K instead of $50K, which is where the average is, then everything would cost 50% more, and then $75K would have the same purchasing power as $50K. This is basic economics. If every man made $100,000 a year, a man that makes $100,000 a year would be seen as broke because he would then be average. And then the standard would be $175K. You see how that works? When a whole bunch of guys started to be able to bench press 225, now 225 wasn't impressive anymore. Now everybody's got to bench press 315. I remember when you could deadlift 315, and dudes showed you respect. Now they're like, ugh. Why? Because the more that people are able to reach a mark, the less valuable it's seen by most people. So how about we show just a little bit more respect for the people that make it possible for us to make the amount of money that we do? Let's just show a little bit more respect, and let's not, insinuate that you have to be a top 17% man. No, we need to have a society that is more realistic in what a standard of living actually should be. And the guys that make 75K should get the respect and a salute and a head nod for being able to excel in the modern day economy, which is struggling right now. Most people are struggling. Most human beings are struggling. Most guys are working really hard for a lot of hours for low pay. That's the reality. And I think that we need to first figure out what the baseline is before we need to tell that, we need to tell a man that he has to be top 17%. And that every man needs to be top 17%, which would make everybody average, which would make $75,000 be broke in the minds of some women. Guys, the number of dollars you make is not as important as the mindset of the women that you are pursuing. That is the most important thing. If you are looking at a woman and the first thing she is judging on is what you present on social media as a high standard of living, let her pay 100% of her own bills alone until end of life. You don't need a person who is only around for what you can give to them, because your life is worth more to you than it is to her. If you are out there making average money, doing hard, dirty jobs, I fucking salute you. I respect you. No ifs, ands, or buts, no addendums. I respect you. And it is my hope that you pay more attention to the women who are looking to build a life with somebody and share experiences with and bond with and create a life and struggle together if you have to until you guys get to a more prosperous economic position, if you ever get there. I want you guys to go look for those women, not be holding yourself to weird ass standards where every guy has to be top 17%, because that's not reality. Let's look for realistic women. Let's stop paying attention to the women that don't want us. Stop paying attention to the women that we don't want, the type of mindsets that some of them are displaying that we say we don't want. Let's stop giving them our attention and pay attention to the women who have their head on straight. Pursue those women, give those women attention. The women that want to cooperate with you and build a real life together instead of concerning themselves with how tall you are, how long your dick is, and how much muscle you have. Now, does that mean that you should not try to make more money? No. Does that mean that you should not get in the gym and get as fit as you possibly can? No, I'm not saying that. But if you are doing your absolute best, go find a woman that respects that and is giving her absolute best. Those women are out there. There is not a particular dollar amount you need to make to get a woman that respects, that loves and respects you. You need to have the kind of character, you need to have the work ethic, and you need to care about and take care of the people around you. And a lot of that has nothing to do with money. Find the women that value those traits, no matter how much money you make. That's most important. That's my take on it. Again, this is not a diss to Mr. Jeff St. James. I do respect the guy. I agree with probably 96% of what he has to say. But I do think that us guys that have been lucky, we are outliers to live the lifestyles that we are afforded. We need to act like it, and we need to thank the guys that make average money instead of telling them to sit on the back burner and run themselves deeper into the ground just to get somebody to give half a shit about them. That's my perspective on it. In the comments below, you can give me your perspective on it. You can forward this to Mr. St. James if you want to. I definitely will be tagging him. And we can have the discussion. But let's have rational, reasonable, grounded in reality takes so that we can get regular everyday people to cooperate with other regular everyday people so we can have a society that is sustainable. Having a bunch of finance bros and personal trainers is not going to move society forward. Let's show some respect to the average everyday man, shall we? And on that note, guys, work as hard as you can. Hit the gym as hard as you can. Practice safe sets. All right? Do the best you can. And take care of the people around you. I will see you on episode 279 on Wednesday. Peace.